Hello YouTube, it's Carlos the Rook, and I'm bringing you round one that I played yesterday in Wolf Chess Championship 7. And in round one, I'm playing Bavik Das. He's rated 1561, and was at 1781, but this was my monthly rating. My actual rating, live rating, I think it dropped down to like 1730. So he starts off with knight f3. I respond d5. And he goes G3, setting up like a from a ready open, a Catalan type position. I go C6, and he goes Bishop G2. And the whole purpose of C6 is I wanted pawns all on the light squares. So I'm blocking this light diagonal. So when that knight moves, the bishop is hitting a wall of pawns. So that's the whole purpose of C6, D5. That's what I normally do against bishop to G2 fianchettos. And so next I play knight F6, get my knight out, and he responds with castle. So his king side has developed. Now he needs to decide what he's going to do on the queen side. And I go bishop f5. It's like a semi-Slav type structure with possibly a e6 or maybe queen d7 and attacking the bishop on g2 with a timely bishop h3. It just depends on the position. And here he responds with d3. I felt like d3 was really passive, but maybe the idea behind d3 was e4. But then if e4, you're going to need a rook on e1 because I can take twice on e4. So I go knight on b to d7. And my idea here is for me to play e5 and maybe e4 for me to start push to just take over the center. And Bavik responds with c4. So he's counterattacking, hitting at my pawn structure. I play e5 anyway. If he captures, I just capture back and I'll have a big pawn center. Or like Hikaru say, big black center. So he does capture, I recapture, and now the center is mine. And here he made what I thought was a dubious move. He made bishop e3, and the engine doesn't like that. First of all, what is the bishop doing on e3? Now, true, I wanted to develop my bishop to c5, but I felt like his bishop was going to go to g5, and if his bishop goes to g5, I'm going to do bishop e7. So, but he said, I talked to him afterwards, and he was concerned if he went bishop g5, I go h6, and he can't go h4 because he already did g3. So he would have to go back to d2. I think that would have been better than bishop e3. You blocking your own pawns. So I go bishop d6 since I can't go to c5. And here he goes queen b3. So I thought here, I don't want queen c7 because then you got rook c1. The bishop on e3 stalks queen b6, which would have been a move. Rook b1 drops a7. I'll just show you that. And maybe that was the point of bishop e3, queen b3, putting pressure on the pawn. So I just went b6 to block off this bishop. Stockfish wants me to castle. And allow. I thought about castling, allowing the queen here. Oh, and I was thinking rook here. The queen just takes here. I take here with rook e1 maybe. That's the line I was looking at. But Stockfish is saying once the queen come here, d4 first, bishop d2, and then rook b8. And it's saying if queen captures a7, it wants rook a8, queen b7, knight c5, queen b5, bishop d7, and that queen is in trouble. Yeah, that look really, really precarious for the queen. The queen has to go to c4. It's bishop e6. The queen goes back to c2. Knight b3. Ooh, knight b3 is brutal. Look at that. Knight b3. You can't take the pawn. I mean, the pawn can't take the knight because you lose your rook. Let me just show you that. You can't take this because you lose your rook. So that doesn't work. It's saying knight a3 is the move. Did you just give up the rook? Wow. I didn't see that. And that's why chess engines are better than humans. So I went b6. And here he responded with d4. I felt like d4 was dubious because I'm not going to take, because then that brings his knight to life, hitting my bishop, my light square bishop. That doesn't make sense. Rook c1 with the idea of queen c2 is an idea. But then he takes, I take. I just felt like e4 was the best, and the engine agrees. It guys, e4 is the only move. It's hitting the knight. Make the knight decide what they want to do. And he goes to h4, hitting my bishop. I retreat the bishop to e6. Now it's overprotecting the d5 pawn. I got a nice center steal. And here you go, knight c3, developing his queen side. And the engine wanted me to castle here. However, I play h6. And my idea is I want to castle without that bishop g5 coming to pin my knight. And here he played a good move. f4. Because he has to free up his knight. Because my idea with h6 was the g5 to trap the knight. And now I can't go g5 because he has f5 trapping my bishop. So I have to take the pawn. So I take with impasse. He captures back with his knight. Stockfish wanted him to capture back with the bishop. And now I castle. King safety first. And he goes knight d2. So I lined up the queen on e7. Because with knight d2, he's hitting my d5 pawn 3 times. It's the knight, the queen, and the bishop. And so basically what I'm saying is if you take those, I'm going to take your bishop on e3. He sees this, and he put the bishop on f4, offering a bishop trade. I trade the bishops. He take back with the rook. And I know the pawn, the pawn on d5 is gone. It's being hit 3 times. I'm only protecting it twice. So I move a rook over, and my idea is just to put pressure after he take the pawn, to put pressure on the d file and to try and hit the d pawn, his d pawn on d4. And here he played a very, very dubious move, e4. And e4 was just an outright mistake. Now with e4, the idea is if d captures e4, d5 hitting the bishop, but then I seen knight c5 hitting the queen, and I also seen queen c5 check. So I felt like it was safe to take it. So I capture, and he go about with his plan. Stockfish, yeah, it was knight c5 or knight d5 here. I went queen c5. So Stockfish wanted knight captures d5, knight captures d5, bishop captures d5, queen captures d5, knight c5 hitting the queen. The queen goes to c4. Oh, and then his rook captures d2 at the end. Okay. Rook captures d2. So material is back even, and this pawn is just running. This e-pawn, you got to pass e-pawn. It's just going to run in. And you need, yeah, it's just going to run in. It's running. Nah, it ain't running because it's being hit 3 times. The bishop captures e4. Knight captures. Rook captures. Then it's queen f6. Rook e2. The queen captures on b2. Yeah. Queen captures b2. Rook captures. Queen captures. Hold on. Okay, that can't be the move. Yeah, it is. I was thinking that rook on a1, but it's the rook on d2. And black is up a pawn in a winning position. Yeah. No, black is up 2 pawns. And yeah, this is just a winning position. But that's what the engine wanted. But I went queen c5 instead, and you see it gives me a question mark. And he stepped over king h1. The engine wanted rook f2. And I take the pawn with my knight. He takes back. I hit the queen. He takes the pawn, hit my queen. And here I debated queen c6. And that's what the engine wants. It wants queen c6, queen c3, knight c5, king g1, knight captures e4. So that's what the engine wants. But my opponent had 5.5 minutes left on his clock. So I figured bishop captures b3, knight captures c5, knight captures c5 back, a captures b3, and then I could capture the pawn on b3 with my knight, but then his rook captures me on a7, and he's infiltrating. So I decided it would be better, instead of the knight capture his pawn, to just go a5. And I don't allow his rook into my half of the board. And that's exactly the way it worked out. So when bishop captures, he captured back, I captured him, he captured back, and here a5. Now his rook can't capture, and his rook is stuck on his side of the board. And this pawn is still vulnerable and needs to be protected. And I figure he might go b4. And if he do, I got a knight fork that's going to hit him hard. And he goes b4 and knight d3. I'm forking 3 pieces. You can't protect all 3 pieces at the same time. And the most valuable piece is the rook. It has to be protected. And once that rook moves, that b4 pawn falls. So he moves his rook to f5, and his idea is to go to b5 and hit my b pawn. So I captured the b pawn. He goes to rook b5. Initially I was thinking rook b8, but rook b8 is extremely passive because then he can just bring another rook here. And hit the pawn from that way. So that doesn't work. So that's why I went up to rook d6. So now I'm defending that pawn. His other rook can't get in. And my knight is protected by my pawn and is blocking the rook access from this way. So this pawn is just solid. And now that frees my rook up to go off and get some offensive measures. So he responds with h3, trying to give his king room to breathe. And I go with rook e8, bishop f3, and now I just go rook e3. You just want to put a little pressure on that bishop. And also, with the bishop move, I can, this pawn is in trouble. The g3 pawn, if the king steps up, then I could go over to maybe the b2 pawn. So he has a lot of weaknesses. And so I'm just probing his defenses. So he plays rook f1, protecting the bishop. And here I found knight d3. And my idea here is if he goes rook d1, trying to pin my knight, then knight f2 check, and he loses the rook. And if he goes rook b3, trying to pin the knight that way, then it's knight f2 check. The rook captures f2 and I capture his rook on b3. So I was setting up a tactical trap. And here he plays king g2. The engine wanted bishop d5. And here I say in the tactic, knight e1 check. He steps over, rook captures f3 check. The king takes the knight, and rook e6 check. And here he resigns, because no matter where the king goes, he loses the rook. So that was a nice start to the tournament. I got a win. You know, I haven't been playing that well lately, so getting a win was good. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends and family about it, and let's grow the channel. Thank you, YouTube. Have a nice day. Bye.